Well, there we are. Hey, welcome to the Pittsburgh Sports Live Penguins preview show and live chat. Hi, I'm Dan Kingerski. Oh boy. The iPad loves to screw. Only when I'm in here, loves to screw with me. So here's what we're going to do today. I want to first thank and announce our brand new sponsor for Pittsburgh Sports Live. We are in the... Well, hello again from the Beaver County Jeep Dodge Studios here at Pittsburgh Sports Live. I'm Dan Kingerski. Yes, we have got a brand new sponsor for Pittsburgh Sports Live, and can't tell you how thrilled we are. Pretty soon you're going to have a lovely little logo right here, and we're happy to tell you all about them. In fact, I can even, in case you're in the market for a brand new Chrysler 300C, it's my son's car, man. Do me a favor and go to Beaver County Jeep Dodge in Beaver Falls. Here's what we're going to talk about today on the big program. We'll get into the Penguins preview. We'll look at all of the factors that are going to lead the Penguins to or away from the Stanley Cup. And I'll tell you what, if you checked out Pittsburgh Hockey Now today, you saw I am going full-on bullish on the 2018-19 Penguins. I am predicting, write it down, put it in pen, drop a couple shekels, rubies, pesos, dollars, whatever you got in your pocket. Go ahead and bet on the Pittsburgh Penguins to win the Stanley Cup. Some places are 12-1 odds, others are 14-1. There isn't a team in the NHL as deep, as talented, with the amount of physicality the Penguins have acquired. And I think we're going to really kind of explore a lot of those options today. I also want to tell you, hey, you're on Facebook. You're actually on YouTube. You can keep chatting. And my phone is now ringing. I don't know if you can hear me or not. Somehow the phone began ringing on airplane mode. Am I back now? Good God almighty. The phone was on airplane mode. I just double-checked. Oh, I thank everybody, Tanner and Bob and everybody for laughing through these ridiculous struggles here as we get into the show. Hopefully, the phone doesn't ring on airplane mode again. I'm actually using the phone as a camera today. It's just, man, oh man, you can tell we're still just a month old. Anyway, Beaver County Jeep Dodge Studios, Dan Kingerski. What else more can I tell you? Oh yeah, the Pittsburgh Penguins, Stanley Cup. Deepest team in the NHL. You look at Toronto with Tavares, with Matthews and Kadri down the middle with Patrick Marleau kind of waiting in the wings. But I think the loss of JVR in Toronto, I think Toronto's defense makes them really a first or second round upset candidate. Whereas if you look specifically at the Penguins, tell me where their weakness is. There is someone absolutely insistent on wrecking this show today. I kid you not. I believe we're still live. Oh, boy. Yeah, the 900 people who are going to see this, you're just going to laugh. Bear with me, all right? There's just not much more I can do until I figure out more settings and try not to throw an absolute temper tantrum. Okay. Do me a favor. Let's crank up the live chat. Bob lets me know I'm back, and then I'm gone that quickly, and the camera is gone. There it is. If that person interrupts the show one more time, you're going to see them walking a little funny with an iPhone sticking out of the back of their pants. Anywho, thanks for bearing with me. Here's what we're going to do. I'll just go straight to the weakness. Nick is on YouTube. And by the way, click on subscribe. Most of the shows don't go this awful in the beginning. I actually think I realized that the phone is on internet, and that internet calling is allowed, and that's just interrupting the entire... You see the iPad here, the MacBook here, and the entire system is actually run on Apple. So if one of them allows like an incoming call or something, then everything kind of goes kaplooey. But here's, I really think, what the Penguins have to be careful of, right? This is how you remember Matt Murray. Murray last year slumped to a .907 save percentage, a .422 quality save percentage. Now, the quality save percentage is something I've just came into this offseason. I really like the stat because essentially a .530 quality save percentage is average. That's where you should be. Above that, well, obviously you're above average. Below that, you're not doing so hot. Murray, .422. Now, both Jarry and DeSmith were above that line. Now, Matt Murray was hung out to dry. He received the full Marc-Andre Fleury treatment last season. The turnovers in the neutral zone and their own zone, the lack of attention to detail by the forwards, the defensemen, their inability to take care of their own zone really left Murray hung out to dry. So that .907 and that .422 come with a big asterisk. But it's also a .422, and it's also well below average, and so is .907. And those soft goals, which Murray were his bugaboo, both through 2016, 17, and last season, those soft goals were magnified by a couple factors. One, the Penguins' lack of 5-on-5 scoring for most of the year. I mean, they were historically bad, don't forget. I mean, you think of the Penguins, they scored 272 goals last season, which is a remarkable total, but they were historically bad for months at 5-on-5. You factor that into the cake. And you factor that he wasn't as great stopping all the rest of the shots. So those soft goals were magnified. Now, Murray has to be much better this season. That's really the only place I can point a finger and say, if the Penguins don't win a Stanley Cup, at least on October 3rd anyway, a long way to go, but just preliminarily, that's where I see that the Penguins' only potential downfall. And it's not a bad thing for the Penguins to have a potential downfall. Well, already has 2 Stanley Cup rings and has proven his big money status, is it? That's just, that's the Penguins' depth, and that's the luxury that they are dealing with. Now, here's one guy that you look at the Penguins, Derek Brassard, the depth that he gives them. Did you watch him in preseason? Did you notice how good Brassard was. Both in preseason and in training camp, his strides were cutting the ice. He was good. He was dynamic with the puck. His head was up. He was aggressive. And I think that's the biggest change. Brassard was aggressive. Has been aggressive this season. He wasn't last season. He was feeling his way into this. He came from the darkness of Ottawa, which had swallowed everybody whole. I mean, you had players, wives and girlfriends and fiancés fighting, and you had of an owner that really makes Bob Nutting look like a Steinbrenner up there. You have Guy Boucher, who essentially puts a straitjacket on his forwards. A forecheck? What's that? How about a 1/4 check? You know, one guy kind of softly goes into the zone. You literally see in Ottawa forwards pull back to try to set up the neutral zone trap, and it's been proven time and time again, and Guy Boucher's shelf life is about 1.5 to 2 years before teams begin to figure out that there's always a flaw. There's always a soft spot in Boucher's trap, which they can exploit. In Tampa, there was a huge backside entryway, like a well-lit alley right into the offensive zone. He's tinkered with that a little bit, and without a chalkboard. Hint, hint, hint. One of those is coming too. The new Pittsburgh Sports Live, brought to you by Beaver County Jeep Dodge. I won't get into the Boucher, but needless to say, Brassard was playing on his heels, and he did so when he first came to Pittsburgh. And then whether he suffered that injury in Ottawa or Pittsburgh, we've never really been told. In fact, we've never really been told what the injury is. He looks extraordinary. The Penguins are going to give him some shifts from what it looks like later in the period. Kind of that two-headed monster paradigm that the Penguins used to employ with Malkin and Crosby later in the periods, or in offensive situations, they would obviously throw those two out. Now Brassard looks like he's going to jump on the left wing with Malkin and Kessel or whoever goes there. And Bob lets me know that Brassard said he worked on his speed and quickness in training camp. I've talked to Brassard a couple times, not about what he worked on. There's an edge to Brassard, you know, and I enjoy that. As a media person, you're not going to get the best quotes. You're not going to get the flowery stories from Brassard. But I don't mind a guy who is all business when he's there. Kind of has that a little bit of steel or iciness to him. Same reason I take every chance I get to jump into a Matt Murray conversation, you know, scrum or whatever. I don't mind a guy who's a little bit guarded or intense. Now, it looks like I am missing something here. I had to... Where's my Malkin and Kessel stuff? Because I want to talk about them as well. I want to get into predictions. And by the way, click on that little subscribe button on YouTube and, drop your predictions on the chat here. Kyle says Pens win Stanley Cup. I agree, Kyle. They certainly win the East. That much I'm fairly certain of. And if you want, as I'm rolling through the comments and quotes here, Malkin and Kessel. Let's get into prediction time with them and the rest of the Penguins. By the way, check out I've got about 3,000 words today on PittsburghHockeyNow.com. Season predictions, player predictions. It was as comprehensive as my fingers would allow me to go last night, buried deep in the laptop. Malkin and Kessel, I do not think that they are long for playing on the same line. I think that's an October arrangement, and here's my prediction on that. They're going to get one warning. They're going to get that kick in the pants. Guys, shoot the puck. play defense, get strong on the wall, raise your games. That might come about 3 weeks into the season. And by about week 4 or 5, as we cross over into November, staring ahead to Thanksgiving, I think you're going to see Brian Rust or Patrick Hornquist on that right wing. I just think Hagelin, Malkin, Hornquist was so great last year. And Kessel is actually, on paper, a wonderful and perfect fit with Derek Brassard. And I mean that. Brassard's playmaking first mentality combined with Kessel should be shoot first mentality. If you combine all of that, I think a third line, Brassard, Kessel, would be just absolutely extraordinary. And I can't help but be thinking, like, I hear Zach Galifianakis in my head. You want to sing along with me? The 3 best friends that anyone could have. All right, I won't regale you with my singing. There was Malkin and Kessel in training camp sucking wind during some of the conditioning drills. They're just not meant to play together. They think they should. They shouldn't. They absolutely shouldn't. And so that's one of my predictions this season, not just the Stanley Cup, but that Malkin and Kessel won't last long. And that will be a good thing for the Penguins. As much as I am interested to watch that Simone Brassard, actually, I guess for you, it's Rust Simone Brassard. For me, it's obviously flipped around a little bit. I think that's a quick and gritty and kind of a dirt dog line with the talent of Brassard in the middle. I think the Penguins can break that up a little bit, right? I think if Kessel comes down to that line, you can slide Rust up, or you can slide Hornquist down or Rust all the way to the top line. Because here's prediction number 3 I'm going to make on the Penguins live chat and prediction show. Number 3, Crosby and Gensel will have monster years. They will be absolutely extraordinary this year. Gensel's gone through his little sophomore slump. I don't think he was prepared for everything last year. When you come into the league like he did in 2017 and you have that success, especially in the playoffs, I think it can dull what you expect. It seems a little bit easier than it really is. And I think last year might have been a bit of a wake-up call. He had 13 points, 4 goals, 9 assists in February. He had 9 points last March. And those really accounted for nearly half of his season production. You can tell I was deep into the stats last night, yeah? Please say yes. Oh, I was elbow deep in everything. By the way, if the NHL does happen to make an announcement on the Tom Wilson thing, drop me a note in the chat or on Twitter. You can tweet us there at Pittsburgh Sports Live. And you can also drop me a note at the Dan Kingerski. So I've set the over-under with Sidney Crosby at 100 points. Yeah, really, I think he'll be a shade below that. I see Crosby in the high 90s, 97, 98 points. I see Gensel really, if this season goes well for the Penguins, and for it to go well, Gensel's going to have to sail past that 60-point mark. If he were a 30-goal, 30-assist guy, I think that's really good. But I think he's got more in the tank as well. The Penguins aren't going to be playing the Washington Capitals every night. They're going to have their fill of the cream puffs in the Metro Division. They're going to have the bottom feeders in the Atlantic. And there's half of the Western Conference will be speed bumps as well. And that's going to allow the Penguins to really get fat in their statistics. If they don't, if they don't score 5-on-5. And we see that same struggles at even strength, then changes will need to be made. They can't just kind of sit back and wait for the power play this year. Make no mistake, they did that last year. They were having so much fun on the power play that Kessel-ishness, I think, permeated the team a good bit. They knew they were going to score on 1 in every 4 or even 3 power plays. They just knew it. And so in a tight game, in a contested game, or if they didn't fully have their legs, they would retreat and wait for that penalty call or wait for that opportunity. That was part of their undoing. You don't win a Stanley Cup on the power play. The chances just go away. You get your 1, maybe 2 a game. The other team gets their 1 or 2 per game. You win the Stanley Cup with penalty killing, 5-on-5 scoring, and goaltending. And we've already gotten to the Matt Murray stuff. We're talking about the 5-on-5 scoring here. I think the Penguins' penalty killing, which really struggled last year, we're not going to get too deep into that, with Cullen, with Sheahan, with Brassard, able to do a little bit of that, with Rust and Simone and Hagelin, they'll be just fine on the PK. So you're going to see Gensel and Crosby put up big numbers. I'm not sure the right wing on that line really matters that much. I just don't. I don't think that. I think they could put Rust there as a puck retriever and let Gensel and Crosby do the heavy lifting on the score sheet. So there was prediction number 3. Prediction 4. Let me find him. Where did he go? There he is. Prediction 4. Oh, he disappeared so quickly. There he is. Prediction 4, Daniel Sprong. Let's get into this now that we're really rolling here. It's time to completely and fully adjust your expectations. It's time to understand where Daniel Sprong is in his career and where Daniel Sprong is as a player in the NHL grand scheme of things. Compare him to a pitcher with a big arm. Compare him to a quarterback who can really run the ball. Or let's just call it a one-dimensional quarterback with a big arm. Sprong is in that vein because he's still trying to add layers and dimensions to his game. He's got a big shot. That's not nearly enough to be effective and competitive at the NHL level. He played really well in his last preseason game. That was, I think, against Detroit more than a week ago. Or I guess a week ago tonight. Or was that Columbus? They all sort of ran together. Talked to Matt Cullen about Sprong's game. He said, yeah, he was really good tonight. What they did was that they made Sprong a bit of a grinder in that game. With Sheahan and Cullen, they were cycling, the old school cycle in the corner, drop the puck for the next guy, kind of grind down the opponent's defense and look for that opportunity to spring the puck into the slot. Sprong actually could be effective. He's a big boy. He's a sturdy guy. Don't fall in love with, he could score 30 goals with that shot. That Daniel Sprong doesn't exist. In reality, it never has. That's why a first-round talent fell to number 46 to the Penguins. Because the teams looked at his game and said that's going to be a project and a half. If there is one blight on the Penguins' decision-making process in the last 3+ years, it is keeping Daniel Sprong past that 9 games and kind of wrecking that ELC slide. Not the electric slide, the entry-level contract slide, so that he's out of waiver options now. So let me check Twitter here. I don't want to ignore everyone. This is technically a live chat, and I want to make sure everyone's included. Thanks to all the new subscribers on the YouTube page. Don't forget PHN Extra as well. And our Twitter. See, here, look, Pittsburgh Hockey Now. I do enjoy working on this little thing. And just for fun, you don't make my grandson angry. You won't like him when he's angry. Oh, he was having none of that. He actually, today, he turns 3 months old. I am not nearly old enough to be a grandfather, but it's been a bit of fun. I'm going to try to sneak away here this weekend or next to go play with little Spudley. All right, so we've gotten into 4 predictions. Daniel Sprong, let me complete this prediction. Daniel Sprong, the first 30 games are going to really set his career. He's going to have to be around 10 points in those first 30 games because he's going to get October as a grace period unless he completely wets the bed. He's in for October on that 4th line right wing. After that, it's going to be a bit of a mixed bag. Depending on how Zach Aston Reese plays in Wilkes-Barre, you might see Aston Reese come up and Derek Grant pass through waivers because Aston Reese will be a better right wing than Grant. And then they're going to start putting some pressure on Daniel Sprong. He's going to have to, as we approach Thanksgiving, going to have to show the results of the faith and the grace period the Penguins are going to give him. If by U.S. Thanksgiving, and I say U.S. because Canadian Thanksgiving was in September, if by that point, that's when teams start getting more serious, Sprong isn't where he needs to be, then you're going to see him drop down into a platoon player or get some extended press box nachos while they plug, presumably, Zach Aston Reese into the lineup. So 10 points in his first 30 games is where Daniel Sprong needs to be. Am I predicting that? Boy, I don't want to bag the kid. I don't want to bag on him. I don't want to bury him before his time. Would I bet on it? No. I just, in talking with our old buddy who coaches one of the junior teams internationally, you'll see him in the World Juniors this year. I won't tell you. It's an old friend. You can probably figure out if you really follow me closely on Twitter. But he broke down Sprong's game last Wednesday. I brought some flaws that I saw. And he's like, yeah, but he's a sophomore, which essentially is where Sprong is. And I said, look, he looks like a sophomore trying to crack the lineup for the first time this preseason. And that's why the Penguins were really upset. That's why Mark Recchi took him to the woodshed publicly. That's why Jim Rutherford at the end to Josh Yohe at The Athletic took him to the woodshed a little bit. It's one thing if you're making mistakes, but you're putting forth maximum effort. I don't think Sprong was putting forth that maximum effort. Whether he was thinking and trying to play it safe, or that's just the kind of player he is, who's just looking for the quick strike and snap and hasn't matured to the point to understand his place in the NHL is going to have to be 110% effort. He's going to have to sweat. He's going to have to do some of the unpleasant things in the game, some of the ugly stuff. He's going to have to go into the corners with a shoulder and dig a puck out. He's going to have to be stiff on the wall and not let the opponent skate past. Those are things that Sprong has to do. So that is prediction number 4, that by Thanksgiving that experiment is going to be coming to an end one way or the other. And I'm slightly predicting that it goes to the negative. What else do you want us to predict? Let me jump back onto YouTube here. And, Ryan Haggerty, a look if Sprong falters. That's interesting. Haggerty is, and thank you, Probert. Boy, Probert's dominating the chat board here. Y'all should jump on and join the fun. Haggerty. He's 25. So his days as a prospect are over. But I'll tell you, there was a spark in those skates. If he only had, I think, 34 points for the Wilkes-Barre Pens last season. If he can up that game in Wilkes-Barre, and they're not going to be a great or talented team down there this year. They're not going to win the Calder Cup. If he can show he's let's say a 0.6, 0.7 points per game guy, or if he brings other big qualities to the lineup, if he's very physical on the wall and provides that spark plug sort of game down there, yeah, that would be an interesting leapfrog. Him over Zach Aston Reese. I'm not sure if that's entirely possible, but wouldn't that be interesting? By the way, what do you think of the vest? I know I've got the neck beard going. I'm thinking about making the vest a thing. First few shows I've dropped one on. Yeah, no, I don't know. There's a fine line between preppy and D-bag and cool. I never hit the cool spot, so I'm trying just to avoid the whole D-bag thing. The neck beard, you'll forgive me. I literally was writing at 6 a.m. yesterday, and I didn't finish writing last night. And I had a whole lot of other work to do during the day, meetings and such. But I didn't finish last night till 2 a.m. And that includes a small half an hour for dinner. And I realized that laundry actually needs to be done more than once every 2 weeks, and so does shaving. But that part, I just sometimes don't care. It's winter, right? Or winter, the fall is coming. I can avoid shaving. Let's get into prediction number 5 now. The Penguins defense. You are going to absolutely love it. Fortunately, I think anybody paying attention, I still get the stray Jack Johnson sucks comment. Anybody paying attention saw Jack Johnson in preseason and just how good, how motivated, how much hop in his step that he had. And I'll tell you this straight up as well. In the locker room, I've been surprised at how personable and happy Johnson seems. Now, I had interviewed him several times years ago when he was first traded from L.A. to Columbus. I had done a couple interviews with him, and it wasn't the same guy that I've encountered now. I think when you go through crap, when life just starts not making lemonade but throwing the lemons at you, and you survive that, I think at 31, Johnson really appreciates the opportunity ahead of him. And so when he steps on the ice at practice, it's full go. In preseason, it was full go. For Johnson, you're going to judge his season on 2 metrics. One, we're going to look at his Corsi, because the Penguins are such a big Corsi team. Every single line the Penguins are going to roll out should be dominating the puck more than 50% of the time. So if Johnson is well below 50%, that's a big issue. I think he'll be around that 50%, although playing with a guy like Olli Maatta is not going to enhance Johnson's offensive game. So it should be hovering around average, at least. I think 48 would still be an acceptable number. The second total we want to look at this year for Johnson is the number of hits. If Johnson is making it difficult on the opponents to play the puck in the Penguin zone, that's A, going to drive his possession numbers up. But B, I think you're going to have a lot of fun watching that. And you couple that with Jamie Alexiak also playing let's say 17, 18 minutes a night in that pairing with Justin Schultz, all of a sudden you've got two pairings on the ice for they're reducing Chris Letang's minutes somewhere around, let's call it 21 minutes, roughly speaking. So for 39 minutes a night, you're going to have Alexiak and Johnson on the ice, just tenderizing the opponents, making the Penguins, and here comes a hockey cliche, tough to play against. I think fans are going to really enjoy that. And hopefully, the year off from the Stanley Cup delirium brings a lot of the fans. I'd like to see a lot of the fans come back into PPG, not just the ticket buyers. And you'll notice the words I'm parsing very carefully here. I'd like to see the fans come back into PPG. And when they do, I think Johnson, Alexiak, and not to mention the grittiness that the Penguins are going to have with Hornquist and Rust and Simone and Cullen. I think it could be a pretty exciting game to watch, even in October and November, presuming that everyone's there past the 7-minute mark. Oh, don't do that to me. All right. Tanner is laughing at me. Tanner, what do you think? I've crossed over into the D bag with the vest. Jump onto the top chat here on YouTube. I do want to take any questions you have as well, because as we get to what am I on prediction 6 or so, Juuso Riikola, and let me see if I know I had for some reason all of my videos are gone. There's Juuso. Just for your viewing pleasure. With a little bit of movement, too. Just like Ken Burns. Juuso Riikola has just surprised everybody in the Pittsburgh Penguins. I think when we asked Mike Sullivan on Sunday, it was a really fun chat, by the way. It's also on the Pittsburgh Sports Live YouTube page. Sullivan's full 8-minute media chat Sunday, because there are only a few of us there, so we really got to ask a bit more in-depth questions, and Jonathan Bomboli of the Trib, as usual, stole the show by cracking everybody up, including Sullivan. But the Penguins' language has shifted on Riikola. Well, I wasn't surprised, said Sullivan, because I really hadn't seen him before. So he had a very open mind. In other words, there were no expectations for Juuso. I've been saying Riikola. I guess it might be Riikola. There were no expectations, but he has completely just laid waste to every challenge they have given him. You're going to see him on the top pairing with Chris Letang tomorrow night, in all likelihood, unless they changed up the lines an hour ago. Shelly Anderson was at the morning skate. Juuso Riikola, by all measures, looks like an NHL defender. The speed, the decision-making with the puck, the physicality. I cannot circle any point in the preseason games in which he played that I said, oh, he was out of position there. Oh, he made a mistake there. He was quiet in a couple of the games, maybe not as noticeable. But for a defenseman, if that's the worst you're saying about a guy, that's really good. If you're saying, well, he's a little bit quiet tonight, that means at baseline he did his job. I don't know what to predict for Riikola. I honestly don't. Because the Penguins are stocked with 6 healthy, legitimate NHL defensemen. If Riikola comes into the NHL lineup, let's say he just storms it with Chris Letang and that pairing is fantastic. Yikes. Then maybe you put Riikola on the third pairing with Jack Johnson for the rest of the season. What do you do with Olli Mata? And it's too early to start trade rumors. It's too early to get into trade speculation. But Mata has the most basic game of the Penguins defensemen. And if there was one guy that Ricola could kind of elbow out, would be his fellow Finn Mata. At least that's the way I see it. Boy, it's a tall order. You can't expect or predict it. But Ricola's played so well that now you're wondering if it's possible. And I very much think it is. He could really be a 20, 25 point defenseman because he's got that speed. Good gosh almighty. He might be the Penguins' fastest defenseman. He might be a bit faster than Letang. Certainly a bit quicker than Schultz. So there's that. And I think the Penguins may be looking ahead, wondering when Dumoulin comes back. We still really don't know much about Brian Dumoulin's situation. There again, check Pittsburgh Hockey Now for practice updates. In fact, I'm doing that as we speak. I'm checking to see here if Shelley posted anything from the practice over at PPG. And no, I don't see any news files yet. So that means nothing just yet. It sounds like Dumoulin is out for a while. And let's see here. Shelley, we're going to have some video on Pittsburgh Sports Live in just a little while. Matt Cullen breaking down what he's working on with Daniel Sprong. See, I can check text messages while we do this, too. How cool is that? Hey, you want to see? No. I'm not going to show you all my text messages. Okay, so we've got to Ricola. I don't know how much longer we're going to do this. I don't know how many more predictions that you want. I'm going to put Kessel down to about 75 points this year, maybe bubbling around 80, only because he's going to score less power play points. I'd like to see him gobble up more 5-on-5 points. I think that's really more important to the Penguins' overall health, that Phil Kessel score more 5-on-5 points, be a better even strength player than he was last year. Now, look, I am fully aware that Phil Kessel could rob a bank. Phil Kessel, I was going to make a Supreme Court joke, but we're not too soon, right? It's too soon. Let's just say Phil Kessel could do almost anything, and I think Penguins fans would be like, yeah, it's Phil. Phil could stand at center ice eating hot dogs in the middle of the play, and Penguins fans would think it was uproarious. He can do no wrong. So I cringe when I say he's going to score a lot less points this year, but he needs to play better. And not just play better in November or December. He played pretty well in November and December last year. He really needs to bring his A game at the end. March, April, May, and June. The Penguins won the Stanley Cup in 2016 because of that HBK line. Really, a lot of Hagelin and Phil in that. In 17, Phil was a bit of a passenger. He was getting kicked in the butt privately. I don't know how many of you know that. He was getting the Penguins coaches went to the whip on Phil in 2017, and so that's maybe what doubled some of the frustration last year. Whether there was a problem or not, some media outlets will tell you yes, some media outlets will tell you no. There was certainly a bit of chiding and cajoling and pushing and asking Phil for more at the end of last year. That much, I think, is pretty much a guarantee. But Phil is Phil. He's having fun. 75, 80 points for Kessel. So I think that should just about do it. Yeah. Click on that subscribe button there on YouTube. We need to get to 1,000 subscribers before YouTube lets us do a lot more fun things. And very soon we're going to have more fun things behind us. Boy, just wait. It's just been so hectic and so busy maintaining the content on the websites that we haven't kicked this into full gear yet, but that is coming. So me, my neck beard, and apparently the vest. Thanks, Tanner. Tanner says the vest plays. Cool. I'll go with it. I'm Dan Kingerski. We'll talk again real soon, kids. Until then,